Good day, RSMiverse. My name is Lee Sullivan, and I'm a senior manager out of our Tampa, Florida office. This Nano Learning will help you better understand the new reportable items screen in our ORB audit files. I'm really excited about this new tool, as I believe it will not only benefit audit quality, but will force us to have key conversations within the audit team and with our clients earlier in the audit process. There's nothing worse than identifying a significant control deficiency and failing to communicate such to the client until the wrap-up phase of the engagement. This utterly frustrates our clients and really just isn't good client service. So reportable items include control deficiencies, key or critical audit matters, as well as other comments to be reported to management and those charged with governance, such as additional management representations or management letter comments. So let's jump into the reportable item screen. And you can create a reportable item from Document Manager by just clicking on the green check here, or you can create it from a specific form as well. And for our specific example, we're going to utilize Form 2100, Understanding IT General Controls. Here, I'll point out as well, if you're in a form, you can again create a reportable item by just clicking on the green button here in the header, or there may be specific areas in the form that drive you to the reportable item screen, such as here. And this is what we're going to utilize today for our hypothetical scenario that we came up with, as we're documenting IT general controls and we were made aware of a deficiency in the IT segregation of duties. So we're going to click on the button and it's going to populate our reportable item screen. What I'm going to do today is just kind of walk us through the screen in a little more detail. So first thing we're going to do is name our reportable item. And so we're going to call it IT segregation of duties. And then we're going to add a description of that reportable item. So we could say segregations of duties were compromised as there's no policy restricting user access from key financial reporting applications. During our IT walkthrough, we noted the CFO had administrator rights to the key financial reporting software, and there were no mitigating controls to monitor that user's access and history. What I want to point out here is there's another item here called Other Reportable Item that could be checked. For the purposes of ORB, this box is not needed right now, so you're never going to need to check that. And when we actually roll out ORB 2.0, this will just disappear from the reportable item screen altogether. The source is going to be basically the work paper or the document from which the reportable item was generated. So if you're creating a reportable item from a specific form that you're working in, it's going to default to that form and populate it for you. If you were doing it from the Document Manager, you could manually input the form as needed. And then the Entities screen here would allow you to select a specific entity or multiple entities. So if the reportable item was associated with multiple entities, you could go ahead and click all those specific entities. So for the purposes of this example, we're just going to say it's related to the main parent company. Now the next part of the screen is our recommendation in response to the reportable item. So the pencil icon will allow us the opportunity to document our recommendation to this reportable item. For our specific item, we could document, we'll create a new one, something along the lines of RSM recommends that a control matrix be established and that administrator rights, if given to the CFO, be reviewed by a member of the IT department regularly to ensure the adequacy of any change changes being made. We'll hit OK. The management response below gives us the opportunity to document management's response to our finding and describe any controls that they may have implemented with respect to the finding. Next to the reportable item name here, IT segregation duties, you'll see 6 different boxes that are checked. And these are going to be checked by default, but can be unchecked as applicable. So the first box is if you want this to be tagged to your report for those charged with governance planning document. The second box would be if you want this to be tagged for the report for those charged with governance at final. The third box would be if you want this tagged for a rep letter. The fourth box would be if you want it tagged for a management letter. The fifth box would be a key critical audit matter. And then if there was some other type of letter that we wanted to utilize. So we're going to keep it checked for the first two. We're going to take it off of the rep letter. We'll keep it checked for management letter. We'll keep it checked for key critical audit matter. And we'll take it off of other letter. This section here, roll forward, gives you the opportunity to roll this reportable item forward to the next year. So in the scenario maybe where management hasn't responded to the reportable item during our audit period, we want to come back next year and audit whether any controls have been implemented by the client. This is where we would want to check this box. So within the actual letter structure, you can identify the period that this reportable item related to. So in our scenario, this was something that we identified in the current year, and that's going to be the default. But you could also select prior year if it related to a prior year. The type drop-down will allow you to tag the reportable item accordingly. So for our specific scenario, we're going to tag this as a controlled deficiency. And then the grouping drop-down should be based on what is impacted at the financial statement reporting level. So for our specific example, this is a financial reporting item, pretty holistic item, so we're just going to select financial reporting. The association section will allow you to tag this specific item to a specific risk that may have been documented. And maybe just the reportable item itself would create a risk item that we would want to document. So for this specific example, we're going to go to Edit Association, as I'd already set up a risk in our risk screen. So we're going to tag this reportable item to our segregation of duties IT risk and click OK. So now we've captured everything that we need to within the reportable item screen, and we're going to we'll click Apply, and then we'll click OK. We're going to go back to our document manager, and what I wanted to show you is where you can see the documentation of this reportable item. So we're going to scroll down into our completion section, and we're going to start with the 9030 reportable item report. So now you'll see our reportable item has been tagged to this screen here. And this is really just a good summary screen, really for reviewers' sake, to kind of see everything that's been identified throughout the audit process. What I'll tell you here too is that you can customize how you view this screen, so you can play around with the settings of the screen. So that's really the reportable item screen. And again, from a client service standpoint, I just want to reiterate, we should be communicating these types of things within the audit team when discovered, and then as soon as possible thereafter, having these types of discussions with our clients. Thanks again, and I hope this helped.